I find myself in a strange mix of humor and anger, really annoyed at my own foolishness for slipping up in such a grave way. Infidelity. My love for my wife is deeper than I can express. Many believe that the controversy surrounding Kobe Bryant was resolved when he tearfully apologized to the public. Yet, years after his passing, the woman involved has resurfaced, seeking $5 million. Reports say that Vanessa Bryant fainted in court upon hearing the news. However, financial concerns are the least of her troubles, for the demand was accompanied by a clandestine tape that could entirely transform Kobe's legacy. Here's the complete account: the scandal of 2003. The saga that led them to this heartbreaking juncture began merely weeks prior. On June 30th, 2003, in the charming alpine village of Edwards, Colorado, Kobe Bryant, then just 24 years old, had checked in the Cordillera Lodge and Spa for knee surgery set for the next day. What was intended to be a simple medical procedure would turn out to trigger a scandal that would engulf the Bryant family and irrevocably change the course of their lives. At this opulent resort, Kobe met Caitlin Faber, a 19-year-old concierge who showed him around the establishment. That evening, what seemed to be a mutual encounter would quickly devolve into serious allegations that would dismantle the meticulously crafted reputation of one of America's cherished sports icons, dragging his family into a nightmarish ordeal from which they would struggle to recover. The declarations from his legal representatives that day resonate hauntingly. Kobe Bryant is not guilty of the charges levied against him today. He is unjustly accused, wrongfully targeted for an extremely grave offense, one that carries the possibility of life imprisonment. Charges are not filed by a prosecutor unless there exists compelling evidence that ensures a conviction beyond a reasonable doubt. On July 1st, 2003, Faber alerted the Eagle County Sheriff's Department, alleging that Bryant had sexually assaulted her. The subsequent medical examination revealed troubling findings. A bruise appeared on her neck, and her underwear, along with Bryant's t-shirt, bore signs of tearing and blood. The tangible proof was irrefutable, yet how it would be interpreted became the focal point of a legal struggle that would engulf the Bryant family for the coming year. When investigators approached Kobe on July 2, 2003, his first reaction betrayed the fear of a man watching his life unravel. Initially, Bryant denied any sexual relations with Faber. However, once confronted with the physical evidence, including semen, he conceded to the encounter while asserting that it was consensual. His statement was both incriminating and telling. He admitted to gripping Faber by the neck during their intimate moment, referring to it as his preference, and highlighted his strong hands, but contended that he believed her body language indicated consent. This confession would serve as the foundation of the prosecution's argument and a wellspring of heartbreak for Vanessa Bryant, who was at home tending to their newborn daughter, born just months prior in January 2003. The woman who had supported Kobe during his ascent to fame, sacrificing her own aspirations to bolster his career, now found herself in an unwanted limelight. She had to face the heart-wrenching truth of her husband's betrayal in an excruciatingly public manner. An arrest warrant was issued for Bryant on July 4, 2003, and he turned himself in Eagle County, Colorado, later being released on a $25,000 bond. The sight of one of basketball's most iconic figures being processed like an ordinary criminal sent shockwaves throughout the sports community and beyond. Once a symbol of excellence, commitment, and the pursuit of the American dream, a man now confronted the grim reality of life behind bars. 2 weeks later, on July 18, 2003, the Eagle County District Attorney's Office filed formal charges against Bryant for felony sexual assault. The accusations carried severe implications, including a potential sentence ranging from 4 years to life in prison or 20 years to life under probation, alongside fines that could reach up to $750,000. On this fateful day, Kobe and Vanessa stood before the press, showcasing solidarity, despite their personal lives crumbling around them. "Hey there, I breathe. You embody strength in ways I admire most. I truly apologize." The press conference showcased a stark dichotomy. Kobe's open acknowledgement of infidelity coexisted with his steadfast denial of the assault allegations, while Vanessa stood silently, yet assertively beside him. She issued a statement expressing her unwavering faith in his innocence, remarking, "I recognize my husband has erred. His error lies in adultery, but he is not a criminal." Her statements were deliberate, recognizing the affair that had garnered attention, yet staunchly supporting her husband's claims of innocence regarding any illegal acts. "Balancing the needs of my caregivers with the well-being of my family weighs heavily. I too am merely human. If I could rewind to a different moment, my affection for my existence is profound. She means the world to me today." The intensity in Kobe's tone, while speaking to his wife, was unmistakable, showcasing a man contending not only with potential legal fallout, but also with the profound repercussions his choices inflicted on the one he professed to cherish above all else. Yet, one of the most significant aspects of this entire situation unfolded merely 3 days post-filing of the charges. On July 21, 2003, Kobe allegedly presented Vanessa with an astonishing 8-carat purple diamond ring valued at $4 million. The timing was anything but random. This gesture transcended mere affection. It was a frantic move towards damage control, a physical representation of regret that the press would later label as the apology ring. This lavish present revealed the profound extent of Kobe's remorse and the weight of the betrayal Vanessa was enduring. The ring emerged as a cultural emblem, symbolizing the pervasive issue of affluent men attempting to evade accountability for their misdeeds. The Daily Beast later remarked that the ring turned the case into a mere joke in popular discourse, masking the seriousness of the claims. Yet for Vanessa, this ring signified much deeper complexities. It embodied both her husband's sorrow and an unrelenting reminder of her deepest betrayal. The ensuing legal battle stretched for more than a year, exposing both the Bryant family and Caitlin Faber to severe public scrutiny and harsh judgment. In December 2003, pretrial hearings focused on the admissibility of evidence, with Bryant's defense team headed by Pamela Mackey. They sought to undermine Faber's credibility by claiming she had intercourse with another individual soon after the event, citing semen and pubic hair discovered in her underwear during the sexual assault examination. Their strategy was bold and contentious. They also brought Faber's past mental health struggles into the spotlight, mentioning 2 supposed suicide attempts and her treatment for schizophrenia. Though their tactics were legally justified, they inflicted severe repercussions on both families caught in this turmoil. For Vanessa, every fresh disclosure regarding the case felt like revisiting the anguish of her husband's treachery as she witnessed another young woman facing public scrutiny. Although he insisted he was innocent, the harm inflicted on the Bryant family was deep and permanent. The case experienced various unpredictable shifts from March to August 2004. Numerous postponements arose from arguments over evidence and leaks to the press, with Faber's name accidentally revealed by the courts several times, resulting in threats to her life and public shaming. The toll on their marriage was severe and immediate. In a 2015 documentary, Kobe revealed that the strain from legal disputes and his unfaithfulness played a role in Vanessa losing their unborn child. This heartbreaking event, amidst the turmoil they faced, intensified the tragedy of their situation. A significant moment occurred on August 10, 2004, when Faber initiated a civil lawsuit against Bryant, asking for damages related to emotional distress and public humiliation. This action sparked worries about her readiness to testify in the criminal case and indicated a shift from criminal proceedings to seeking financial restitution. At this point, Vanessa had faced over a year filled with public judgment, relentless media, gossip, and deep personal suffering. The young woman, who had fallen for a basketball star and envisioned a fairy tale existence, instead found herself trapped in a reality that unfolded on the covers of magazines and news broadcasts worldwide. The $5 million claim and the criminal trial that had consumed the Bryant family for more than a year reached an abrupt and surprising resolution on September 1, 2004. The charges were dropped after Faber notified prosecutors that she would not take the stand, citing severe public attention, threats to her life, and a dwindling belief in the justice system due to judicial errors. For many onlookers, this appeared to mark the conclusion of the Bryant family's legal turmoil. They were completely mistaken. Instead of relief following the dropping of criminal charges, a different chapter of legal struggle emerged that would turn out to be even more expensive and emotionally taxing than the initial case. The civil suit filed by Faber in August 2004 progressed steadily, and by March 2005, it reached an out-of-court settlement with undisclosed terms. Nevertheless, legal analysts speculated that the settlement was over $2.5 million, this being the highest damages permissible under Colorado law at that time. The ensuing years appeared to grant a semblance of tranquility to the Bryant family. Kobe's professional life blossomed, and the family seemed to move past the scars of 2003 to 2005. They embraced new life with the birth of Gianna in 2006, while Kobe transformed into a figure revered as a champion of women's sports and a doting father to daughters, demonstrating growth from his former errors. However, the shadow of financial exploitation stemming from the 2003 incident would resurface to trouble the family in their most challenging times. The heart-wrenching ordeal that led to Vanessa's emotional collapse began on January 26, 2020, when a helicopter crash took not only Kobe Bryant from existence, but also their 13-year-old daughter Gianna and 7 others. The profound sorrow that enveloped Vanessa in the aftermath was unfathomable. She faced the devastating loss of a love she cherished most and a child who had been the brightness in Kobe's life. Vanessa discovered the heartbreaking news in the most tragic way imaginable. First, a family assistant informed her of an accident that might have survivors, followed by a flood of RIP Kobe messages bombarding her phone from social media. Unbeknownst to Vanessa, her closest ally, the woman who had previously supported her during the 2003 scandal and remained a regular part of her children's lives, was already scheming to exploit her sorrow. Sophia Lane, Vanessa's own mother, had been living without charge in properties owned by the Bryant family for almost 20 years. However, in the wake of Kobe's departure and Vanessa's fragility, Sophia recognized an enticing opportunity she couldn't ignore. The initial indication of discord emerged in September 2020, merely 8 months following the deaths of Kobe and Gianna. During a revealing interview with a Spanish-language network, even those accustomed to family turmoil were taken aback. The conversation unveiled an unsettling blend of indifference and exploitation that appeared almost unfathomable from someone mourning as a grandmother. While the interview portrayed Sophia as a target of her daughter's supposed harshness, the specifics hinted at a far darker agenda. Sophia's scheming grew increasingly obvious as she recounted her purported expulsion from the family residence. The interview served as a lesson in victimhood, casting Sophia as a vulnerable older woman abandoned by her thankless daughter. Yet, the most insidious part of Sophia's media strategy was her exploitation of her granddaughter's sorrow to undermine their mother. That Univision interview marked merely the beginning of a well-orchestrated effort to extract money, cloaked in a facade of familial conflict. Meanwhile, Sophia and her attorneys were gearing up for a lawsuit that would render the 2003 case a trivial matter by comparison. The lawsuit, which emerged on December 15, 2020, was shocking in its breadth and severity. Sophia Lane submitted a 48-page filing featuring 32 claims, including both intentional and negligent misrepresentation, wage theft, and exploitation of the elderly. The primary allegation was that she had worked as a personal assistant and nanny for the Bryant family for nearly 18 years, tirelessly putting in long hours without fair pay. However, it was the staggering sum that truly highlighted the lawsuit's predatory aspect. Sophia sought $5 million in unpaid wages, calculated at an hourly rate of $96.15 for 12-hour days spanning 18 years. Aside from the financial claim, she insisted on a house and a Mercedes SUV, transforming a personal tragedy into a shocking exploitation of a mourning widow. The timing of the lawsuit was notably ruthless. While Vanessa coped with the heartbreaking loss of her husband and child, she was also engaged in several legal struggles stemming from the helicopter accident. She pursued a wrongful death suit against the helicopter company and fought Los Angeles County over the release of crash site photos that crushed her family's privacy in the most brutal way possible. Now, her own mother was intensifying her plight with demands that appeared aimed at causing the greatest emotional and financial distress. Sophia asserted that Kobe Bryant verbally vowed to support her financially for life in return for her services to the family. This accusation deeply hurt Vanessa, as it suggested her late husband had made pledges she was now bound to uphold, regardless of their truth. It was a clever tactic that turned Vanessa's affection for Kobe into leverage against her financial well-being. The lawsuit portrayed Sophia as a devoted caretaker who had given up her own life to look after the Bryant kids. She insisted she had not been compensated for her efforts, despite assurances from both Kobe and Vanessa Bryant, and claimed she had a right to retroactive pay at the determined hourly wage. The message was unmistakable. Vanessa was seen as a cruel daughter who had taken advantage of her mother's hard work without compensation, only to abandon her once she was deemed unnecessary. The community's reaction to the lawsuit was immediate and predominantly unfavorable towards Sophia. Many onlookers recognized the blatant attempt to take advantage of a mourning widow and her children. Yet, for Vanessa, the public's disdain paled in comparison to the profound hurt of feeling betrayed by her own mother during such a vulnerable time. Vanessa's reply to the lawsuit laid bare her profound sorrow and rage. She characterized it as trivial, shameful, and profoundly damaging. Such words barely conveyed the depth of her emotions. In her public remarks, she meticulously dismantled her mother's assertions, exposing them as deceptive attempts to exploit her financial situation and fragility. Vanessa asserted that Sophia had never served as a personal assistant or nanny, emphasizing that she and Kobe were the primary caregiver for their daughters, with Sophia only occasionally babysitting the eldest when they were little. She highlighted the logical flaws in Sophia's narrative, pointing out that her younger children were born in 2016 and 2019, while her older daughters have been full-time students and athletes since 2010. Even more troubling, Vanessa disclosed that she had backed Sophia for close to 2 decades, which included giving her rent-free accommodations in properties owned by the Bryant family. She detailed how Sophia resided in a secure apartment complex located in Newport Coast, California, without having to pay a dime, as Sophia professed her inability to find housing following her divorce. The most poignant detail emerged when Vanessa shared her efforts to keep a connection with her mother despite the treachery. She mentioned that she had proposed to offer monthly financial assistance to Sophia indefinitely, yet this offer was turned down, instead demanding $5 million of a residence and a Mercedes SUV through third parties. This refusal of reasonable assistance in favor of a shocking lump sum exposed the true motives behind Sophia's actions. Vanessa's anguish was evident as she accused Sophia of trying to extract a financial fortune from the family, especially during a period when she and her daughters were mourning Kobe and Gianna's loss. The lawsuit's timing, surfacing less than a year after the tragedy, appeared, tailored to heighten Vanessa's emotional turmoil and coerce her into a swift settlement to evade extended public scrutiny. The legal field was mainly doubtful about Sophia's prospects for success. Attorney Ron Zambrano, who leads the employment litigation team at West Coast Trial Lawyers, asserted that Sophia's case was futile from the start, stating that relatives, including parents, are not subject to California's minimum wage regulations. He proposed that the lawsuit may be an attempt to coerce Vanessa into a settlement, relying on public humiliation rather than a case grounded in legal strength. The emotional strain on Vanessa was clear to those around her. Friends and relatives observed her trying to keep her poise while facing her mother's public criticisms amid all her other challenges. The resilience that helped her survive the 2003 scandal was now being tested anew. But this time, she was up against a foe that was intimately known, not a stranger chasing money or notoriety. The woman who had sacrificed everything. The courtroom crumbled as legal strife enveloped Vanessa Bryant's life, taking a harrowing turn in 2022. New revelations regarding the lingering consequences of the 2003 sexual assault case emerged unexpectedly. What many believed was a closed chapter nearly 20 years prior resurfaced to torment the mourning widow in unimaginable ways. The catalyst for this fresh turmoil was the appearance of legal documents indicating that Caitlin Faber, Kobe's original accuser from the 2003 incident, might pursue further claims concerning the initial settlement. The 2005 agreement, which had already cost the Bryant family millions and compelled Kobe to issue a thoughtfully crafted public apology, apparently had provisions that hadn't entirely sealed off all possible legal routes for Vanessa, who was still grappling with the profound loss of Kobe and Gianna just 2 years prior. This situation marked a return to the darkest era of their union. The 2003 incident had nearly fractured their bond, led to the loss of a pregnancy from the associated stress, and cast a long shadow over Kobe's reputation throughout his career. Now, faced with Kobe's absence, no longer here to defend himself or provide her support, she was left to navigate the reopening of the most agonizing chapter of their lives on her own. The fresh legal battle was based on allegations that the terms of their original settlement had been breached by various posthumous tributes and commercial uses of Kobe's likeness, allegedly violating agreements set forth in the 2005 settlement. This was an especially heartless moment, occurring amid Vanessa's efforts to commemorate Kobe and Gianna through the Mamba and Mombacedar Sports Foundation and other tributes. The severity of this legal challenge was heightened by its use of Kobe's own quest for redemption against his family. The public contrition he expressed during the 2005 settlement, his long-standing advocacy for women's sports, his transformation into a supporter of his daughter's basketball aspirations. These accomplishments were now being distorted to serve as fodder for a fresh legal attack on his wife and children. The intricacies of the legal predicament placed Vanessa in a position where she faced possible financial repercussions amounting to tens of millions of dollars. In contrast to the previous case, where Kobe's income, future potential, and insurance policies offered a degree of security, Vanessa was now protecting a fixed estate while striving to nurture 3 daughters and sustain the charitable and business initiatives that celebrated her husband's legacy. The emotional toll on Vanessa was visible to everyone close to her during this time. Loved ones observed as the woman who had previously displayed incredible resilience after her mother's betrayal, and who had mustered the strength to persevere following the loss of Kobe and Gianna, began to show signs of strain amid this renewed onslaught. The legal battle trudged through the judicial system, each session bringing fresh reminders of her marriage's darkest days and new threats to her family's financial stability. Documents from 2003 were reopened, with testimonies from nearly 2 decades prior being scrutinized, as every detail of that harrowing time was analyzed once more for an upcoming generation of legal challenges. In the latter part of 2022, a particularly grueling court session unfolded, compelling Vanessa to grapple with not only the legal nuances, but also the profound emotional turmoil of revisiting her husband's betrayal in the absence of his support. The courtroom buzzed with the same media frenzy and public scrutiny that had rendered the initial case so harrowing. This time, however, she stood as a widow rather than a wife buoyed by companionship. As the session wore on, filled with intricate debates regarding settlement nuances, estate issues, and the commercialization of Kobe's legacy after death, the mounting pressure began to take a heavy toll on Vanessa's well-being. She was already navigating grief therapy, numerous other lawsuits, the responsibilities of raising children alone, and now the reopening of her most painful memories. Her breaking point arrived during a hearing when distressing specifics from the initial 2003 case were entered into the court record as part of the ongoing proceedings. As lawyers presented evidence that had been kept confidential for nearly 20 years, including personal details of the initial accusations and settlement discussions, Vanessa felt herself pulled back to that devastating time when her life seemed to be unraveling. The mix of sorrow, anxiety, lack of sleep, and the trauma of revisiting the 2003 case in such stark detail overwhelmed her completely. Observers noted her start to tremble uncontrollably as the hearings progressed. Her breaths became shallow as she fought to stay composed amidst the memories of her marriage's most harrowing moment. When she finally fell, it was not merely due to the immediate pressures of the trial, but from the immense burden of 2 decades filled with trauma, betrayal, and heartbreak. The woman who had stood by her spouse through his confession of infidelity, who faced public shame while secretly suffering, who had lost both her husband and daughter in a single heart-wrenching day, and who had faced treachery from her own mother in her time of need, had ultimately hit her limit. The downfall reverberated throughout the legal sphere and among the general populace. This was stark evidence that even the most resilient can reach their breaking point, that the weight of trauma can accumulate over time, and that the ruthless precision of the legal system can exact tragic emotional tolls on those ensnared within it. Medical experts who cared for Vanessa in the wake of her breakdown attributed it to acute stress disorder, exacerbated by lingering grief and the mental strain of having to confront harrowing memories. Observers noted the poignant irony that the woman once celebrated for her fortitude during the 2003 trial was now being undone by its revival, orchestrated by those looking to capitalize on her family's misfortune. The public response was immediate and forceful. The image of a mourning widow faltering in court as she was compelled to revisit her husband's betrayal and the darkest times of their union elicited widespread compassion and outrage regarding what many perceived as the worst form of legal exploitation. After resolving her mother's case in August 2021, Vanessa now confronted a renewed legal challenge stemming from the 2003 incident, leading to her collapse, a manifestation of years spent in a legal battle that preyed upon her wealth and vulnerability. This courtroom crisis prompted a critical examination of how the legal system treats cases involving deceased public figures and their families. It underscored the potential for past settlements and agreements to be manipulated many years later against mourning families and illustrated how the quest for profit can overshadow basic human compassion. For Vanessa, this breakdown was both a recognition and a turning point. The highly publicized incident compelled her to realize she needed support, revealing that even her famed resilience had its boundaries, and that safeguarding her mental well-being was crucial not only for her own health, but also for her ability to nurture her 3 daughters. The situation that led to the downfall found resolution through private settlement talks. Yet the toll on Vanessa's mental and physical well-being starkly highlighted the persistent price of her family's fame. Once seen as a pillar of loyalty and strength in America, she was driven to her limits by a legal system seemingly focused on capitalizing on her family's misfortunes. In the years following, Vanessa has increasingly shared her journey through grief, trauma, and the ongoing struggle to shield her family from those seeking to profit from their tragedy. Her breakdown in court marked one of the lowest points in her life, but also sparked crucial dialogues surrounding the treatment of survivors, the morality of posthumous lawsuits, and the human repercussions of our obsession with celebrity. Thank you for watching. If you enjoyed this video and found it useful, don't forget to explore more incredible content displayed on your screen. Catch you in the next one.